have some secret, brilliant plan.
I made a promise to hurt them the way we hurt.
Is it a fair question to ask you, because I'm asking everybody in the cast today, if they are Team Nick or Team Luke, who they want June to end up with? Is it fair?
No, it's not fair.
Okay,
I cannot. I mean, look, I do have an idea as a producer of where I think it has to go.
Okay.
But that is no reflection upon either of these gentlemen. And as their friend, co-worker, and sometimes boss, I'm not at liberty to choose. I can't.
Okay, let's put it this way. Had you met them in the reverse, had you met Nick in the outside world, because she and Luke had such a connection when they first met, those sparks were flying, and she met Nick under different circumstances. So let's say the roles were reversed and she met these guys in the opposite circumstances. Would she have fallen in love with both of them, do you think?
Yes, I do.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do. Because I think Luke may have changed in a way that Nick changed, the Gilead changed Nick. I think the connection that June and Nick have is two people who have gone through a war together, who are in a war together. And there are certain experiences that they've had and things that they've seen that have changed them forever. Mm-hmm. They have that bond. Mm-hmm. But of course, then there's Luke, and there's, he's her husband. He's the father of her child. And Nick's the father of her other child. So see, it's impossible.
Yeah. No, it is. I know I have a team, but I totally get what you're saying. And okay.
What team are you on?
I'm Team Luke.
Are you?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm Team Luke.
Okay.
But very close. Very close.
Yeah. I get you. I'm interested in that. I'm always interested in that because I feel like Nick is the forbidden love. So people tend to kind of go towards Nick because people like that excitement of it. Yeah. But I always respect a Luke fan.
Who would you cast in a Hallmark movie opposite June? I know you made a joke that you were on your Instagram that you were auditioning for a Hallmark movie. Which one do you think would make the better character?
Nick, you mean OT or Max?
No, the characters.
Oh, the characters. Can it be both of them? So yes, they're like one of them works at a Christmas tree farm, and then one of them like runs the local inn. And one of them is kind of a bad boy. Like we could make Luke kind of the bad boy, and then Nick's like the sweet guy who they always have a daughter and the mom died at some point. He'll be a widower and she'll have to choose between them.
I'm laughing so hard because I'm a Hallmark fan. Clearly you've watched a few too.
I love the idea of this movie. So
I do too. It's possible. So you mentioned the word boss, occasional boss. So I want to talk about your directorial debut, directing 3 episodes. And I've seen 2 of them and they're extraordinary. And you have your own voice and you've made your own mark. And by no means did you need any advice, but did you draw advice from anybody, get advice from anybody that you used that was really useful?
Yeah, I asked any director that I was currently talking to for advice. So I asked like Taika Waititi, I asked Wes Anderson, I asked like anyone that I was like, oh, you're a director, do you have any advice? But I think actually not the best, but the advice that I perhaps needed the most or used the most was the most unique was from Ben Stiller, who I asked, and he basically, I'm paraphrasing, but he being an actor director, he had a perspective that was really interesting. And he kind of advised me to make sure that I didn't shortchange myself on my performance. And it's very good advice because there's a lot of pressure when you're the director and you if you're acting in it, you do your take and then you have to go watch it and everyone's waiting. The whole crew is standing there waiting to know whether or not you're going to move on or whether or not you're going to go again. And it's really difficult to go, I need to do another take. And you feel very selfish. And he gave me great advice. He said, do it. Do another take if you need to. Don't worry about it. Like treat your performance as if it's another actor that you're directing. And that was advice that I used every day.
I've heard George Clooney say that about directing himself, that he has to remind himself. Did Taika have funny advice? I'm wondering if his advice was hilarious.
It was funny. Taika's advice basically was like, just always have, and which is actually really good advice. And I've heard this from more than one director, but it's like, always have an answer. Even if you don't know what the answer is, have an answer. And I've heard this from multiple directors. It's like, if somebody comes up to you and says blue or red, just pick a color. Even if you don't know or you don't care, say red and say it with authority and like, you know what you're doing.
That is good advice for life.
It is.
Everything. Never let them see you sweat.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit, just sort of so fans can get revved up. Where is June at the beginning of this season? What is her main motivation? It's always Hannah, but really internally, what is her motivation so far this season?
Yeah. So where we start out with June is it's not just about Hannah anymore. And it's now about her protecting these women, her friends, these handmaids who have saved her at the end of season 3. She sacrificed herself. She survived. They save her. And now she has to figure out how to protect them. And that is a lot of pressure. She doesn't have a plan. And she has to figure out how to lead and protect them, while also at the same time, all she really wants is to go get her daughter. But she has this added responsibility now. So that's where we sort of start out with her. And she finds out very, very quickly what it is that she has to do.
Right.
And as usual, it's not pretty.
I've never yelled at a TV more. I'm like, just go this way, that way. I'm screaming constantly at the TV. I don't want to give away any spoilers, but I did hear you say in an interview in the past that you're terrified of like deep water and maybe being in like a tank.
Yeah.
I don't know. Without spoilers, did you face your worst fear this season?
No, because it wasn't deep.
Okay.
It wasn't deep. If you're talking about episode 4 or 5. Yeah. Okay.
Episode 4.
Yes, it was. No, because it wasn't deep. And I was with a good friend who I adore, and another actress. So no, I have not faced, I wouldn't do it, by the way, if that was like, I'm not I'm not doing like a shark attack movie anytime soon. I could not do that.
What would be June's guilty pleasure? If she's having a night off and she gets to indulge in anything, what is going to be her guilty pleasure?
I feel like sleeping. I feel like sleeping, or maybe I'm getting my guilty pleasure confused with June's, but I feel like sleeping. I feel like June has very little opportunity to just lay in a nice bed and sleep with nothing to bother her or worry her. How do you sleep in Gilead?
I don't know, but I'm glad that her bath game is strong. She still takes baths, so I'm in support of that.
Yes, her bath. That girl is clean, okay? That girl is clean. That girl is bathing and showering all the time.
This will start a war.
So I'm asking everybody in the cast today, Team Luke or Team Nick, which team are you on? Who does June, who should she end up with? Who's her soulmate?
Wow, she's got this sort of duality where June gives her some sense of a voice in a world which is an escape from Canada and Luke, and yet he gives her a different type of compassion. It's a brilliant sort of dichotomy of character and lives. But if you had to put me on the spot, I'm old-fashioned, and I've got a ring on my finger, and whoever's got the other part of that ring wins. So I have to go with the married man here.
I am so on that team. I am on that team. I think I thought I was the only one.
Oh, no.
On a little side note, I did hear that your real life wife has never actually seen the series. Has she seen it yet, or has she still not watched it?
She's read the book, and I think that's good enough for her.
Okay.
I think she would like Joe to be Joe when I'm home, and not to be sort of filled with another depiction. I think she's happy enough with the. I think she's in awe that the series is so wonderfully received, but I think she's reserving watching it till a later date.
It's amazing. Well, it's going to be great. She's going to have all the seasons to binge all at once when she finally does, because it's hard to watch week to week. So let's talk about your on-screen wife. Who do you think needs who more? Does Fred need Serena more, or does Serena need him more? They don't seem to be able to escape each other, but who do you think could better live without the other?
On both sides, it's a pretty twisted, toxic relationship. I think Fred surrounds himself with loves powerful voices and women because he hasn't got the power or the intellect. And I think he loves her for her voice, but the regime and the architecture of the regime is such that her voice will never be heard, and he is not going to disagree with it because he's got so much power. And I think the corrosive effects of power have rendered him kind of lesser protected to his wife than he should be. But who needs who more? I think it changes. I think she's always manipulated Fred for her means. And I think in this season, Fred really gets to see that and wants to really disengage from being manipulated. But at the same time, they have a child, and there's a situation where they need each other again. And Fred, he's limited, but I guess if he had any gifts, it might be PR. He's good at the spin. He's a bit of a spin doctor. He likes the optics, and the Gilead family is very optically appropriate for him. It's something he's been chasing. And if he can keep her on side for that, he will. I think there's a genuine love that goes right the way back to the very, very beginning before Gilead was actualized. But it's gone through so many strange, abhorrent twists that you can't call it love anymore. It's a marriage of convenience in many ways, certainly a marriage of convenience and a partnership of convenience in order to survive this last episode where they're rapidly running out of air.
I wish I got to talk to Elisabeth a little bit more about the end game, because she's mentioned as a producer, she does sort of have a broad strokes idea of where the show will end up, how you get there and how many seasons it takes. Do you know, as a performer, do you sort of have that idea of where it's going? Because the way you're talking, I almost hear, and I'm not asking for spoilers, but I almost hear like there's redemption for Fred. Like he could actually, is he going to go to the power side, or is he ever going to sort of, like you said, he loves strong, powerful women and he's drawn to that. So will that draw him? Do you know where it's going?
Ultimately, I don't. I'm pretty in the dark. Bruce on occasion has been very nice and sort of given me a sense of where a season before we begin a season might go. And it's always, good to get that heads up, but I don't. I mean, often, because of COVID, we got these scripts pretty much ahead of time. So I knew where the season was going, and I knew what the end of the season would be way back at the end of season 3. But ordinarily we get scripts right up, a few weeks before shooting, and I have no idea, which is frustrating. But in terms of where we ultimately go, I don't know. I know there's a 5th season, and I know there's the Testaments. So it's going to be interesting to see how we segue from one to the other.
I'd love to talk to you about Elisabeth, the director, who directed 3 episodes this season. And I really could tell, I saw 2 of them. She has her own style. So how was it sort of working it with that dynamic? Because you've worked together as actors for such a long time. How was the shift?
Very natural for Lizzie. She's hugely accomplished, obviously, as an actor and a producer for the last few years on the show. But seeing her step into the role of director was extraordinary. I mean, what's extraordinary is just the sheer level of energy that you need, not only to lead a show as an actor, and produce it, but also just to do all the work that's needed to direct is massive. So just on the sheer workload, I'm in awe of that. But as an actor, she understands the process. So for all of us, I think there's a sense of real security and trust that you don't ordinarily get with somebody you might not know, or you might know but doesn't understand your rhythm or process. So to have that inherently is lovely for an actor, to see that she's so cognizant of the process. And her depth and knowledge of the narrative is unparalleled, and she's so accomplished as a director. I mean, there's no bells or whistles on the shot. It's not look at me. She's so zoned in on the narrative, the emotional narrative. You know, some shots are just one shot or two or three setups. So she's economic. She's lean with her choices. You know, she's just extraordinary. When we started way back in March in 2020, before we then went on hiatus because of COVID, I did one day with her, and I was 6 months just waiting, itching to get back and to be directed by her. She does a phenomenal job, and one of the episodes in this season is my favorite episode, and it's my favorite season as well.
What's the number? Do you know what number, the episode?
9.
Find her and bring her to me.
First of all, just such a pleasure to talk to you. I love Aunt Lydia. I love her as a character. And, you know, I always think back to her scenes when we got her backstory and she went on that date with the principal. And as much as you can hate Lydia, you feel so much for her. And I was rooting for her in that moment. How is that possible? How is it possible that somebody can be so diabolical, but then we still want her to do well? Like, it broke my heart that it didn't work out.
I know, it broke mine too. Thinking of how it could have gone for her. Come on, hon. Well, you know, I guess I would say to you that in all human beings, I think there's a core of goodness, you know, if you can just get to it. So I suppose that sympathetic part of you, or whoever has some empathy for her, sees that perhaps there is real kindness in her. It's just not what she's leading with. And she does love those girls. I mean, I could say that and I'm sure people would throw tomatoes at me, but I think that's true about her, you know?
But I also think that comes across almost, it's almost like, if this is a show about children, these are her children in a way. Yes. And it is a man's world. It really is a man's world. And Aunt Lydia has a little bit of power in that world. And she almost feels like being strict is being protective.
Well, I think I agree with a lot of that. And especially it is a man's world. And at the end of the day, she has power, but only to a degree. At the end of the day, the power is in the hands of men.
Yes.
There. And so as she spends more time year after year in Gilead, her awareness of, okay, how am I going to protect them from the creeps, commanders? You know, that's not how we were supposed to do it, by the way, Jezebel and sex here, there, and everywhere. No, gentlemen, you'd be wrong there. That's not the way it goes, but that's what they're free to do. So keeping the girls safe. And also keeping them safe in Gilead. Look, if you don't do it this way, you're going to the colonies, and this is bad. You just listen to me, you know. And also that's the belief that their lives beforehand, what were they doing? Wasting their lives, you know.
So one thing, I watched your talk with Margaret Atwood, and I'm Canadian, so I grew up reading her novels. That is what we read in school. It was required reading, not that it was anything, not that it was a chore, but Handmaid's Tale was one of those books I grew up with. And I know that when she wrote The Testaments, which is sort of the follow-up, she already had seen your performance and had your performance in mind, which is amazing. Oh. So I was wondering what that meant to you, number one, and also, as you're playing Lydia now, sort of knowing where she might be going in the future, do you use that? So does it work in sort of a partnership kind of way?
Well, it's interesting because, first of all, what it meant to me, I love Margaret Atwood, personally and as a writer. So to think that in any way, the performance of Lydia influenced anything she had said or wrote is an honor. And also, I think as subtle as the shifts in Lydia might be during The Handmaid's Tale, I think it will lead to a more aware Lydia, and a Lydia that has a limit as to what she will take and what she will allow to go on. I don't know if that limit is going to take any shape in The Handmaid's Tale, because remember, there is a break between Handmaids and change happens slowly, I think, profound change. Sometimes not, sometimes
Right.
it's very fast, but I suspect
Yeah.
it'll take her a minute. But I think what she's learning is to make sure she's aware, paying attention, writing it down, knowing what's going on. Ear to the ground, her little spies out there. No question, very important.
I'm asking all of the cast members today if they are Team Nick or Team Luke. Who do you think June should end up with?
I don't know. I used to wonder if like somebody thought somebody died, their husband died in a this or that, and in fact he didn't, and he came back, and you're already involved with somebody else. What do you then do? I haven't a clue. Nick is still in Gilead, darling. He's got some things to get straight. I don't see June, even though she does love that man. At the end of the day, come on now.
It's like each knows one side of her, one world, and doesn't know the other.
That's
that was,
it.
by the way, the
One
movie.
world. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
They don't know the whole of, neither of them know the whole of June. So as the season starts to get fans excited, what is Lydia's main motivation as season 4 starts?
Well, it shifts, doesn't it? Her main motivation in the beginning is to keep her job and to keep it on a level that she wants, which is number 1 on, not number 6, and certainly not in the retirement home. Don't you even say it. That's not, she doesn't want that. But she has to fight for that, because that horrifying thing that happened at the end of 3, there's not a worse scenario. Not a worse scenario. Even if 80 handmaids had escaped, okay, that's horrible. But the children, it was a disaster. So she has work to do. And she has to prove herself. So there's that section of her life that she's going to be working on very hard. And also, coming to terms with June and her feelings for June. And what's the matter with you? What are you doing? And her love for June and the complex and her rage toward her, sorting through all that, her feelings for Janine, what goes down with Janine. It's just, I think it throws her every step of the way. Like, what is going on? And what's going on with her own feelings? That she can't keep them compressed in a little cabinet that the door shuts and you go to sleep at night. She's haunted by it all.
And her job performance is being evaluated. Is she good at her job? Is she doing it? She keeps losing the handmaid. So,
well, that's it. So, she's got work to do, and it's not easy, for sure.
We're the ones we've been waiting for.
So I'm asking everybody in the cast today if they are Team Nick or Team Luke. Who do you think she should end up with?
I hate this question and I love it. Oh, no. It's so difficult because I love them both as people and as characters. Yeah. You know what? At the end of the day, I'm going to say it. I'm sorry, OT. Team Nick. I do.
Why?
I think that there's been such a shift in June over the last 4 seasons, and Nick at least understands Gilead, has been in Gilead, and knows who she is now. I don't think she'll ever return, unfortunately, to being the June before all of this. And she's a wildcat, and he can sort of deal with it. And Luke is a beautiful, wonderful man who has no idea who this woman he married 7 years ago is. And so I just think it's too complicated. I think the drama needs drama. Luke and Nick, I'm done.
Wow. Okay. There we go. We have it. We've heard it. It's official. But let's talk about OT for a second. You and OT and Samira, you filmed together this season. Like, you have a different, and so how much interaction were you able to have prior? Like, you probably shooting on different days and maybe seeing each other for like cast events and Q&As and that kind of thing. Yeah. But you get to film together now. So if you can talk about that experience, because you guys seem to be having on your social media so much fun. Like, there's like threats of a dance off and the whole thing. Oh, well,
they are my siblings now forever. I had one conversation with Samira at an awards show, and we danced until 3 a.m. I think once, but we didn't really interact. OT and I have been close for a while, but had one scene together last year. This season, getting to know the two of them as human beings, but yet also performers. I'm blown away by how talented they are. Like, I knew it, but watching them in a scene, and then also just in between takes, getting in trouble, photo shoots, laughing, joking. I haven't had this much fun. I had the most fun I've had in season 4 because of those two. And then when you add in Elisabeth, it just is a gong show. I can't believe we got anything filmed.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Let's talk about where Rita's at the beginning of this season. She's having the refugee experience. This is a huge thing. And what's her main motivation? And because we sort of see her as this person that takes care of this home for so long, what is her ideal home life? Like, what kind of future is she going to carve out for herself?
I'm glad you asked that. I mean, I know for a fact she didn't know at the beginning. And while she was happy that she was free, and I'm glad you used the word refugee, I did a lot of research into Syrian refugees, or the Syrian refugees that came to Canada and their experience, because of course you're fleeing a horrible situation, but it doesn't mean you don't miss home. And for Rita, for so long, the Waterford house was home. She had purpose, there was structure, she had routine, she had something to do every day. And so now being thrust into Canada without family and with no real identity, she really struggles with it a lot. So we see her fragility. And slowly as the season goes on, we see her take back her independence, start to relearn what it's like to find her own voice. She starts to wear pants, which is crazy. And I think she wants a nice, quiet, peaceful life.
What do you think Rita's guilty pleasure is? If she gets to have a guilty pleasure now, what would it be?
We see her have sushi in it, which is really interesting. I think for Rita, a guilty pleasure would be like a bottle of Shiraz, just a good, strong wine.
I've heard you say in interviews that you love that because you're not like this at all in your life, but you get to have this sass and give those filthy looks.
Yeah.
And how much fun you had doing that. So what is the key? What is the key to like channeling those filthy looks? I'm asking for a friend. I don't need to ask for a friend.
It's really interesting that I think the key is it depends so much on your scene partner, because I usually would give them to June or to Serena Joy. And I love Yvonne and Elisabeth so much as friends that it's really easy to give your friend shade and sort of a lot of times when I do scenes with Lizzie, I'm actually talking to her as Amanda and referencing something in our personal lives. So I really will channel stuff throw some shade back at a friend. I play the friend card. I really use the secrets that we have and then I throw them back.
We came here to fight.
No, you came here to fight.
Blessed be the squad. This is, I don't want to give anything away, but this is the season where sisterhood is, if it hasn't been on the forefront before, it is now.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear you say that, because that's how I feel too.
Again, I don't want to give anything away, but seeing this beautiful relationship develop between Janine and June over the past several seasons, but now, it's just at a different level. And she's such a beautiful character. If you can talk a little bit about the evolution of the character and the evolution of that relationship and that sisterhood.
Definitely the evolution of the character has been, ping-ponging around, it seems sometimes, for a couple years. Janine is started with fire coming out of the gate and then has, really did not want to be here and needed to find a reason to live. And then I think for a lot of season 3, what even happened in season 3?
That's so funny that you say that too.
I'm like, what happened? Because it feels like so long ago. And they kind of run together after a while.
A lot of them pick up right where the last one left off too.
Right. So but now I'd say the evolution of the friendship is such that I think now we've reached a point where Janine is more lucid in that she's paying more attention. She cares so deeply about her friends, about June and Alma and Brianna and the handmaids. She loves them deeply and she wants them to get out and to, live normal, semi-normal lives. I think the way that Janine sees it, she sees it, we are all together. We are going together. And I think what she's realizing is that what June sees is June's got her own motives. I think that becomes clear kind of in episode 4. But I think Janine realizes a little bit like, maybe I need to start looking out for myself. And you have to look out for yourself, because you're not always going to have a June. to save you and keep you safe. And yeah, I'm like, what can I say?
No, but no, it's beautiful. And I think Janine, I mean, you gave me chills actually when you were talking. Janine has saved them in a way because she is the eternal optimist. And she is that person that no matter what Aunt Lydia does to her, she still has love in her heart. I wanted to ask you, I still remember that first scene, the first time we saw your character and her hair was over, her eye, and she was like defiant. And she was, do you think we'll ever see that person emerge again?
I wonder, I don't think so. I think not unless we're in a similar kind of flashback. No, I don't think so. Because I think that was Janine in a former life. Wow. She's been through too much now. She still has that fire, but it manifests differently, Now it manifests as like a pure and honest, unrelenting love for her friends.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was, well, I'm going to protect me and protect myself. And it's like a defense mechanism.
Yeah. I'm asking everybody today if they're Team Nick or Team Luke. Who do you think June should be with? I love the smile on your face when I asked that question.
Listen, she should be with Luke. But when they're together, when Nick and June are together, I'm like, I gotta fan myself. The chemistry is insane.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she should be with Luke, I think. But also, you know what? June is not the same woman that Luke married,
Yeah.
Maybe she should be with Nick. Maybe she shouldn't be with either of them because everybody's been through a lot. Maybe we all just need to sit down for a little while, take a break.
I like that you just took us on the whole journey of, wait a second, plot change.
Yeah, I don't know.
What is
being in a relationship? What is best for June right now? I don't know.
What do you think Janine's guilty pleasure is? If Janine had a night off and she could sort of do whatever and have no pressure on her, what is she doing?
Margaritas.
Okay.
We talk about that in season 1. I think we say like, oh yeah, we'll drink tequila. I think the way like Janine in the before times would like let off steam is I think Janine would like to dance, not like a club girl, but like a fun, just dance with my friends, have a good time. I think that she likes reality TV.
What's the favorite show?
I don't know what she would have liked. Probably like The Bachelor.
I'm going to leave it on that.
Yeah.
That was, the world is so different this season. And without spoiling things, we're used to Gilead. And I sort of said to myself, like, if they're going to, freedom is just the beginning is the catchphrase. Where are they going to take this? And what they did is they created probably my favorite season. So if you can talk just a little bit about sort of your experience and that world building and how the world has just expanded for the show.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why we're seeing different layers of these characters is we're no longer confined literally and figuratively to the world of Gilead. They can branch out and experience more parts of themselves and, what different layers of freedom there are and who they are within those layers, so that was, gauging those levels was really big part of the season. I think it's a really big part of every character arc this season.
Yeah.
Freedom agrees with you.
We are not free.
Let's talk about this very awkward bromance between the two of you this season. You two have
awkward.
Should it just be a bromance?
I think it's just a bromance.
Okay.
Let's remove the adjective.
I stand corrected, but yes, talk a little bit about that bromance and you get more scenes together this season without spoiling anything, but working together.
I love working with Max. I was excited that we were going to be paired together, and it's been great because I realize there is, I don't know if it's bromance, but we have a lot in common. I think that I respect his connection with June. I think we're in similar places in terms of the political situation we're navigating, and I think we both have a similar kind of remote pragmatism. I don't know. It feels kind of paternal. I'm like the creepy father-in-law.
What do you have to say to that, Max?
Look, I don't know how I got so lucky to get to work with Brad this much this season. But what I think is interesting about it is, Brad and I are friends outside of the show, and I think you can tell. Like, it's such an interesting thing about the camera. Like, no matter what we do, you can sort of see the truth. It always sort of brings out the reality. And I think you can feel that sort of natural kind of rapport between us, and it makes the scenes like playful in a way that I think is fun to watch.
Yeah, well, watching the two of you is beyond delightful. Okay,
we're taking it on the road.
Are you?
Yes. It's gonna be a whole spin-off.
Listen, you could.
We take Manhattan.
Yeah.
Listen, no fans of this series would ever be mad at any sequel, spin-off, reboot, remake, anything. I'm going to ask you a really tough question, Bradley. Are you Team Nick or Team Luke? Who should June end up with?
I think I'm pretty Team Nick.
Is that because he's here?
Yeah, it's because it's because I know him. I get him. The other guy I'm kind of unaware of.
Right.
A little too chaotic over there, whatever that is.
I think it's an obvious question, too obvious to ask you what team you're on, Max. But I asked this of Elisabeth. If your characters, Luke and Nick, had been reversed and you had met June in the outside world at a coffee shop or something, do you think you would have fallen in love?
That's such a great question. Did you ask this to Lizzie?
I did.
Am I allowed to know
tell you what she said until you answer.
That's so funny. Yeah, I do. Shall I tell you why? Because when we meet in the show, it's an immediate thing. Like, we have this instant sort of chemistry. And knowing the context of that, that's not something that would happen to Nick on a regular basis. So certainly for me, I feel like he was instantly attracted to her in a very sort of shallow physical sense.
This is the darkest series of The Bachelorette ever.
She did, by the way, incidentally say that without question that you two would have fallen in love.
That's very sweet.
So I just wanted to ask you, starting off this season, I don't want to give away any spoilers to people, but what are your characters, and you spoke a little bit already, Bradley, about your character's main motivation, because you both are conflicted in so many different ways. You have different allegiances and alliances, and you have to sort of service different groups of people. So what's each of your main motivation in season 4?
I think it's a constantly unfolding situation. I think I am clearly having lost my wife, and I think feeling like I destroyed my wife. I think I have something to atone for, and I think the only way I can do that is by working within the system to potentially, I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know if he wants to upend it. I don't know if he'll get tempted by power. I doubt it. There's a kind of abandon to him now. So I think that's a lot of what's going on.
Well, I think I'm probably biased a little bit. Like, I do tend to look at Nick through kind of rose-tinted lenses. And I don't find him as sort of mysterious or mercurial as other people do, because I play him. So I've always seen him as being somebody who is driven by this sort of romantic love that he has for this woman, and at the same time is stuck in this incredibly complicated position. So he's trying to figure out how to walk this fine line of making his position useful and then also not being an enabler of the worst kinds of things. And he often doesn't get that right, and that's a fun thing to play is somebody who doesn't ever have as much power as you would like.
And I always say that in a lesser show, these would be two characters that had epiphanies and could be very simplistically heroic. But the fact is, when you're functioning in this repressive political system, it's not that easy. And it would be an insult to the difficulties that June's character has to go through and the other handmaids to make it easy for certain characters to become simply one-dimensionally heroic.
Dean, Armitage, or Joseph Lawrence, who's more evil? If they went toe-to-toe, who's winning?
Oh, Dean's a mess. Yeah. Lawrence would never take the top of anyone's cranium off. Only figuratively.
I can't ask God for something that she didn't want.
First of all, you have the best resume in Hollywood right now because you are on this show, which is, in my opinion, one of the greatest shows of all time. President Barack Obama you're playing, and Black Widow. Yeah. I mean, this is an incredible resume. I don't think anybody sort of has those boxes ticked off.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, it's exciting and a bit daunting. It's a big honor too. So, I'll take it while it's here. Sure.
Oh my gosh. It's amazing. So, funnily enough, I've been asking everybody all day in the cast if they are team Luke or if they are team Nick and who June should end up with. And I'm just...
What did Amanda say? What did Amanda say is what I want to know. There's a right answer and a wrong answer from her. So that's what I want to...
I wanted to ask you, if you had met June, if your character had met June in Gilead under totally different circumstances, like if your and Max's, roles were reversed,
right,
do you think the two of you would have fallen in love? Because I asked Elisabeth that question, and I asked Max if they had met in the outside world. So do you think they would have fallen in love in those circumstances?
I'll break it down for you. Listen, okay. Number one, June and Luke's love is real, and I think they would have found love in a hopeless place. Nick and June, listen, you need a whole fascist regime to bring those two together. They wouldn't listen. Sure, they've got chemistry. I'm not denying it, but I think in the real world, I don't know. I don't think it's working out.
They almost need the drama. They couldn't just have a night where they're just chilling and watching a movie. You know what I mean? Like, who knows if they take their coffee the same way?
Exactly. I get the appeal. He's a very good-looking man. But that doesn't mean that they would be compatible for like a lifelong. Luke is a lifelong guy. He's the guy you want to have kids with.
And speaking of which, you are the father of the year. I mean, the fact that you're raising this child, you're raising Nicole, and and she's let you know that this is a relationship, a love relationship.
A love child.
How does he deal with that? Like, how does he reconcile that in his head? And what motivates him? Is this his second chance at being a father? And how do you reconcile it as an actor?
Great question. But you know what I think a big part of it is that Luke feels that he was really incompetent in the lead up to the Gilead rise. He didn't go on the marches. He wasn't campaigning. He didn't do the voting. When he was told they should get out, he didn't get out. When they did get out, he couldn't protect. He couldn't fire a gun right. He was completely incompetent, completely failed his family. And I think, and Moira helps him navigate this. His relationship with little Nicole gives him an opportunity to be there for June. And he hasn't had the opportunity. Like other viewers are looking, going, do something, Luke. And he hasn't. And this is the place that he can do something.
And how is it working with babies on set? Because you're one of the only people, because every scene that you capture is so divine. I don't know if there's like a lot of screaming and you just capture that moment. It must be tough.
You know what? I love babies. I love young people. And so it's fun for me, but really our editors, shout out to the editors, because they make things, and our directors, of course, they manage to craft wonderful performances from these little people.
This season, you have new cast members you're working with, new actors you're working with. I don't want to give away any spoilers, but it seems like you all had a real camaraderie together on set. And then you also have a switch in the fact that, Elisabeth's directing. So if you can talk about sort of how this season has felt different from other ones.
Yeah, we're really lucky. Just the energy in the cast, I feel, is great. I love everyone, both as artists and as people, and also because of the pandemic and we're in such a small bubble. I feel like this season weirdly enough, I got to spend more time with cast members than I had in other seasons. So I got to hang out more with Bradley Whitford, you know, Offset, who's just a joy, and Yvonne, and you know, it's so many cast members. So that's all amazing. And then also getting our leader, Lizzie Moss, the great Lizzie Moss, to direct us, and she's just like a savant of TV, and just working with her in that way. I've told her, just put me in everything you're going to direct from now on. I'll do anything.
Yeah, hopefully she does, because you guys have an amazing bond together. There was something about a dance-off. Who is going to win a dance-off between the cast members? Who wins?
Honestly, well, Amanda is a pretty amazing dancer. Lizzie is a trained dancer, for those of you interested in trivia. So I think somewhere between the two of those, although, yeah, I know. I want to see Max break dance is my request. I don't know if you spoke to him yet, but just let him know.
This morning, a plane left Gilead and landed at Pearson. There were 86 children on board.
Good to see you. First of all, congratulations, series regular.
Oh, it is such a relief. It is. I mean, I think people assume that being a series regular on Handmaid's Tale is the most depressing job there is, and that could be the case if there weren't so many wonderful people involved in making it, and if it weren't such a good show. So, you know, for enduring a winter in Toronto, I'd rather, you know, there's not many other better jobs out there. I'm thrilled to be a part of it. So.
Listen, I would be an extra on that show. I would. I mean, I just think it has to be so exciting. When did you get the call, by the way? When did they call you and say, did you sort of know how it was going, or was it like a sudden thing?
Well, it was mostly, I was gearing up for another project that I'm directing this year. And I think they realized, hey, we should probably, I think there's a lot that we need him for this year. So once we got the call, you know, it was just, yeah, it was such a thrill. And to see where Mark started as just this, you know, just this kind of ambiguous character in season 2, and to see it grow. Like you said, like, I'm happy to just stand in the background on The Handmaid's Tale, but that with each season, I've been able to play a bigger and more vital role on the show.
They need you at the border. Every time someone crosses, you need.
That's right. They need me at the border.
That's a teaser for season 4. If you're being shown a lot, there's going to be a lot of border crossings.
That's right. It's nice to be needed.
A question. Does Mark have bedroom eyes for Serena? Is it just me? Is he getting taken in by her? The two of you have a lot of on-screen chemistry. I almost root for you. I don't know what that says about me.
Isn't that strange? I think there is. I think we see it only in the first scene in season 2 between them. We get a glimpse of how much Mark admired the woman that she was. You know, she was this really strong, powerful feminist that was just extremely bright and passionate. And he only knew that part of her, and he didn't know much about her role in Gilead and how much she had changed. So I think he is enamored with her, and I think they both enjoy the relationship because I think they're used to playing this game very well, and I think it's kind of a sick attraction that they love that they're being manipulated by the other person, and I think they also pride themselves on being excellent negotiators, and I think he admires her. But I think in this season he starts to see that the woman he kind of was so smitten with in season 2 is not the woman that he's dealing with now.
Isn't that all relationships? You see the real person after the first few months. We're all on our best behavior, and then it all goes.
The honeymoon's over. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well,
and these are not like small problems, like she doesn't put away the dishes. This is like she tortured people in another country. That's
right. But on this show, it's you meet during the stakes being that high, and then the question is moving forward: will she put her dishes away? Will we be able to have that mundane life together eventually? Right. I wanted to ask you. You talked a little bit about. I would never expect your character to sort of enjoy being manipulated. You seem like that. You're that solid guy that whenever we see you, we know something good's going to happen.
Right.
Will we see your backstory? We're seeing more of you this season. And have you created the backstory for yourself, or have the showrunners told you more about where you're going?
Well, they have. And in just revealing this season, there was a point. I like to be surprised by where the story goes. So I try not to ask, I'm not the actor that needs to be handheld through, okay, where's my character going here? At least in this season. And so by the time episode 9 came around, I thought, oh, that's an interesting angle. I saw that. I knew he was capable of this, but I didn't know that they would take this switch that he does. So I think he enjoys his relationship with her because he's like I said, he's an excellent negotiator, but there is there's a level of attraction that he I think always likes. I think he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, and he knows that she thinks she's the smartest guy in the room. So I think we're attracted to, like it or not, we are attracted to people that have that much power. Don't
let her fool you, is all I'm saying. Moving forward, I'm asking.
I wish it were that easy.
Right? Yeah. True, of all things in life. I'm asking everybody today, Team Nick, Team Luke, what team are you on? Who should June end up with? Who's the right guy for her?
Oh, man. Well, I was part of one of these relationship dramas on a previous show, and so I'm always rooting for the original relationship. But man, this is more fractured than any relationship I've ever dealt with, thankfully, in my life. I would go team Luke. I just don't know how we get back to that. That's what I love about this show, is that the characters evolve so much from season to season that you're like, I always want the relationship to stay intact, but there is so much history now that we have, as fans, are a part of that. I just want them all to survive. I definitely want Gilead to go away, and whatever happens to these people, I hope they're all happy in some facet, because I think Nick is a great guy, and I think Luke's a good guy too.
But just real quick, I know, like, you sort of talked a little bit about how this season they're taking the world, like, you thought, okay, how do they expand the world outside of Gilead? Like, how are they going to do that and pull it off? And they pull it off to the point where I think it might even be my favorite season of all the seasons so far.
Me too.
You want to just sort of tease to the fans, I think the tagline for the show is something like, we're moving into a new chapter, or like, freedom is just the beginning, or something. So I'm going to leave it to you. Take it away. Tease the fans. What can they expect with this new, bigger world that they've expanded on?
Well, I think a testament to the writing on our show is that the old adage, give them what they want, but not in the way they expected it, has never been more true than it is this season. There are so many things that we as fans, just watching it myself, I thought, oh my gosh, they're really going there. Finally, I can't believe this is happening. And at the same time, there's a part of it that it's about, I think maybe a sub theme is be careful what you wish for. And I guess I can just leave it at that. It's just like you said, I think it's the most interesting season that they've done, especially knowing, like, I felt like at the end of last season, I thought, I don't know where we go from here. This just seems, I don't know where we go. And to see where it goes by the end is so gratifying.
I ask for justice.